Okay, something a bit different. This is my 2007 Ford XR6 Turbo Ute, which I've owned since January 2010. And when I got it, the thing was pretty much dead stock. The only thing it had done to it was a aftermarket Bluetooth set up in it. Had factory wheels, factory suspension, factory tune, everything. Owned by a slightly older gentleman, so he wasn't really into hotting it up much. So I did all that after I bought it. So I'll go over the mods, a bit of the history of the car, and yeah, make a bit of a different video than the normal Africa Twin stuff and motorcycle stuff, since I am a car enthusiast as well. I'll start with the exterior stuff. I haven't really changed much of the body on the car. External things you can see is, I don't know if it'll come up on the camera, but there is a front man intercooler in there. That's pretty much it for the front and the personalised number plate. I've got the 20-inch wheels, and they're all wrapped in Nitto Invo tyres. So standard XR6 body, slightly wider wheels on the rear, and they've got 275 tyres on the back. The only thing I added, which was a factory option, was the hard lid. So it is a factory Ford hard lid with the factory rear spoiler. There's not really much externally done to the car, so under the bonnet we've got Ford's Barra engine, which is a 4-litre inline 6 double overhead cam, 24 valve, iron block, alloy head. So nothing over the top in its architecture, it's just built really strong. So internally it's all dead stock except for some crow cams, valve springs and retainers. They get a little bit floaty when you start pushing bigger power, so I've changed them out. We've got 4-inch intake, which goes into the Garrett GDX 3576R Turbo. That goes out a 4-inch exhaust into a 3.5-inch system. From there it goes into a front man intercooler. Up through the other side we've got a NIS Pro overboost valve, so it's not a blow off valve, it's an overboost, so it's pretty much a mechanical bleed valve really, that bleeds off extra boost. And then we've got a nozzle there for water methanol injection, which lives in the tub. Goes in through the standard throttle body into the Plasma Man upper plenum replacement. So it still sits on the factory lower section with the intake manifold, but just a different top. We've got Bosch 42-pound injectors at the moment. I've got some bigger ones there to put in, but I want to do the full rail and regulator upgrade. And you won't see it, but down there on the chassis rail there is a Bosch 044 fuel pump in a, I think it's about 1.7 or 1.9 litre surge tank, and the factory fuel pump is in the standard tank. So you can see there's a few little other showy bits in the engine bay. We got polished everything, so polished ECU cover, polished fuse box cover, polished header tank, polished catch can, and a polished cover for the brake fluid there, and power steering, and a couple of braided lines for the coolant. Other than that, she's pretty dead stock in here. Nothing over the top, it's not a big turbo. It's not pushing big power, it makes 340 kilowatts at the wheels. Hasn't been retuned since I put that turbo on, so needs more fuel, so needs a fuel system upgraded. Up the front here we've got Shockworks 355mm 2-piece calipers with 4-piston brakes. Stock awesome, work really well. And then we've got 20 by 8.5 inch front wheels with 245 Nitto Invo tyres on it. Up the back, you've got Ford GT spec rear brakes, so just a single piston caliper, slightly larger than factory rear discs, and the wheel is a 20 by 9.5 with a 275 Nitto Invo tyre on the rear. So other than that, it's pretty standard on the outside. I have got the factory option hard lid with the wing. It's not a fiberglass one, it's actual plastic, so it doesn't warp or anything. It's quite heavy though. You probably see here I've removed the rear muffler, and what I've got in place is a little dump which just stops to pull the diff out to the side a bit. So I've still got the rear section. It usually just loops over top of the diff and then has another muffler, but I've done that, makes it a little bit louder, sounds a bit better. Inside, it's a bit messy because I've got some camera gear from getting some shots before, but it's the high spec XR6 interior, so it's got the dual zone climate control with a colour screen. This version has got the 6-speed auto. So I've also got some gauges, they're autometer cobalt gauges, boost and wideband, so they match pretty much the colour of the dash. Probably looks better at night, but that's the closest matching aftermarket gauge at the time. I don't know if there's anything better now, but it looks really good at night. And I've got an OBD2 gauge set up here, so that can read all the stuff like trans temp, air intake temp, water temp a lot closer. I've changed the speakers. We've got JL audio speakers in the front and the back. And I've got, you can see, there's a sub here, 12-inch Sony sub. There's one behind this C here as well. And then we've got a Pioneer amplifier. Nothing over the top, just sounds really good. The best thing though is I can play YouTube videos, or pretty much any video, from an iPod through the factory screen, so that sounds pretty cool. This gives another dimension to watching things when you're driving, entertainment. Other than that, she's pretty standard inside. I've changed all the LED, all the bulbs in the interior to LED. I've installed the LED footwell lights as well, which the Ute's never had. I did have the headliner redone since it was sagging, so that's been replaced. What else have we got? For the auto, there is a PWR aftermarket cooler, trans cooler. So that replaces the factory one, which is a bit prone to fail. So it's more of a security thing than anything. If that fails, you get water all through the gearbox, and it's called milkshaking your gearbox. That's not good. You've got to get it rebuilt then. Suspension wise, I've got Shockworks coilovers in the front, and they're adjustable shocks in the rear. For those that don't know, this is a leaf spring vehicle, so it's got leaves in the back. I've also done the leaf flip trick, so the way things are stacked in the rear end, you swap some plates over and it lowers the rear a bit, so makes that sit a lot nicer. And I've replaced the saddles, instead of being rubber, they're now machined metal, so the rear end's more solid. Factory LSD rear end. It's pretty tall diff, it's like 2.7, so the 6-speed auto still goes alright. They're not really quick off the line, they're just nice highway cruiser, revs really low on the highway. So why did I pick an XR6 Turbo? Well, at the time I was driving a 1980s car. I'd never owned a car newer than me. I was born in 1987, so yeah, I hadn't owned a car that was younger than me. And these were good, awesome bang for buck performance, and even more so now that the prices are sort of cheap for them. So really good, strong engine, an awesome gearbox at the time, a 6-speed auto, and an affordable car. Wasn't really heard of in Australia anyway. So easy to make power out of. They're really detuned from factory. They run up to 6 pound boost standard, so just with raising the boost with a few supporting mods they gain power easily. So I did have 315 kilowatt for a while with a much simpler setup, so I didn't gain much more going to this because I ran out of injector. So I've got bigger injectors to put in. It's just I want to do the full fuel system. It's taken a while because I ended up getting a new daily driver, and I've got an Africa Twin, so I was riding that a heap. This sort of sat in the garage. Still changing the oil regularly, but wasn't getting driven much, so really like to do some more with the car, drive it, do some more DIY mods. So pretty much everything that was done to the car I did myself. The only thing I got done was some welding done on the intake to add in the nozzle and that, so that was done by a friend. Everything else was fitted. I did the valve springs myself with the help of an extra tool you use. Did all the gauges and that, water meth did myself. Also rebushed all the front suspension with poly, did all that by myself, got a little press to do it. So it was a good car to do stuff on. Everything's pretty easy to do on your own. You don't need that many specialised tools. Probably the valve spring tool and the press to do the bushes was probably it.